Hi everyone, and welcome to And So On. My name is Lisa, and today it is knitting edition. Okay, so today is knitting edition. I've been gone for about 3 weeks from knitting, and I have lots to show you, so I thought I would hop on and show it to you now. So I have several finished items. I've got a lot of whips. I've got a couple new cast-ons, and I've got some acquisitions. So it should be a really full episode, so I hope that you have a cup of tea or coffee or whatever suits your fancy, and that you get comfy. Okay, so first up, I have my Clark Pullover. And this is the Clark Pullover from Jane Richmond. It is a really wonderful pattern. I would say as long as you've knitted one sweater, like one basic raglan sweater, I think this is great. And I would even say for a confident beginner or somebody who wants a little bit of a challenge, I think I could have knitted this when I was first knitting pretty comfortably. And it turned out really, really great. So if you'll remember, I made this from 2 of my Knit Crate boxes combined together. One was a merino yak silk, and the other one was merino mohair silk, and they both had the same gauge, and so I thought, why not combine them? And so because I only had 2 of each color, I did have to make some adjustments to the pattern. So the pattern calls for 4 skeins, for my size, calls for 4 skeins of the main color and 2 skeins of the contrast color. So in order to make it work with 2 and 2, I had to do a little bit of monkeying with the pattern. And the way I did that was, in the pattern, the thin stripes are the contrast color. And so more of the sweater is the main color, which in this case is the lighter color. And so in order to fix that, what I did was I just skipped the first color change at the top here, and I made the second color change in the darker color. So I have 10 rows of the darker and then 4 rows of the lighter. And after that, the only other difference I made was I shortened it. So I had to kind of go back and forth. So I would finish most of the body, and then I would do the sleeves to make sure that I had enough. And then I went back onto the body and I did one last row at the bottom. When I look at other versions of this, they have sort of 8 or 9 or 10 repeats of the stripe, and I only have 7, but that's totally fine. And then at that point, when I had all but the cuffs and the hem to do, I let my daughter try it on, and wow, it fit her perfectly. Immediately it was like, oh, that's her sweater. On me, it didn't have very much ease, and I don't know if that's because I think I may have picked the sizing based on the finish measurements rather than my bust measurements, or the other way around. I think I would size up for myself next time so that it would have a little more of that oversized feel, or not oversized, but just a little more ease. So I'll put in some pictures of my daughter wearing it. She looks absolutely adorable. She loves it. It's cozy. We did have some cooler days where she was wearing it. Now it's back to being really hot, but we did have some cooler days. And so because I hadn't finished it yet, she had the opportunity to customize a little bit. So she wanted extra long cuffs. She wanted to be able to, like, fold her hands over the cuffs when she was wearing them. So we've got some extra long cuffs here that I did. And one thing I did differently is I knit these cuffs inside out. So when I had taken the stitches, I had taken them off the needles to make sure I had enough yarn. When I put it back on the needles, I just started knitting the opposite direction from the inside. And what that does is, because your purls are usually tighter than your knits, it makes for just a nicer, more uniform, tighter ribbing. And then I did a sewn bind off on these here, I think. No, actually, I think that one's just the plain, that one's just a regular bind off in pattern. You can see here, if you get close enough, that there is a slight speckle on this. You can see kind of like hints of pink. I don't know if it's going to come out or not, but there are hints of pink both in, let's see, both in the darker color and in the lighter color. So it turned out really, really well. I also did the same thing on the neckline. I also picked that up and knit it inside out. Because that's stretched out more, you don't see it as much, but I do really like that method. So this is done. I'm so chuffed that I was able to monkey with the pattern and get it out of 2 skeins of 200 gram skeins of each color. And yeah, I'm really, really pleased. Okay. Second finished object is what I'm wearing. This is camisole number 4 from Petite Knit. If you'll remember last time, I was like, here. I had done everything else except for this and some of the strap. So I had actually finished that sweater before I finished this, which is why I showed you that first. And then I was like, just get it done, get it off the needles. And so I finished it to the top. I finished this. I'm reasonably happy with this. I'll put in some pictures that I took this morning. Part of the reason why first of all, I don't think my decreases were very good. I don't know if it's going to read, but as a continental combination knitter, when I first started this, I hadn't quite figured out how to do my decreases. And now, honestly, mostly what I do for my decreases is if I have a decrease, I just reorient the stitch. Because when you do continental combination knitting, or just combination knitting, you often end up with your stitch twisted, right? Mounted differently. And then all you do is you just knit it differently. So I would knit through the back loop more often if I am knitting back and forth. If I'm knitting in the round, it makes no difference at all. But if I'm knitting back and forth, sometimes I'm going to end up knitting through the back loop. And once you get in the rhythm of it, it's so much easier to purl that it's very much worth it. It makes my knitting so much faster. But when it comes to things like decreases, etc., sometimes it's a little tricky. And so at this point, when I started this, which was in quarantine, I hadn't quite figured that out yet. Now I've figured it out, and all I do is I just remount the stitches and knit it as normal, because I could probably figure out how to do it from how they're mounted, but I just figure it's not worth it. Like, just remount them. The number of times that you really have to do a decrease compared to the number of times that you're doing a knit or a purl, it's worth it for me. So that's how I do it. So partly it's that, partly this design, I don't know if you've noticed this, but this design is everywhere in stores. Like, I don't know if they took it from Petite Knit or Petite Knit took it from another designer, like a fashion designer. I do not know, but literally this top in this design is in several of the stores in Sitges for like 20 euros or something like that. And something about it being everywhere makes it a lot less appealing to me. Anyway, it's fine. I like it. I had originally, this is made from Knitting for Olive merino, which is beautifully soft. If you want a beautifully soft merino, it actually feels like cotton. It really, really feels like cotton to me. It has the stretch of wool, but it feels like cotton. So I got this to test the pattern to do one in silk, and I have 2 balls of Knitting for Olive pure silk. I don't think I'm gonna make another one of these. I think I'm gonna find something different. I might even get, you know what I might do with it? Well, I'll show you later when I show you my stash. I have a couple of other ideas of what to do with that yarn. I'll see how much wear I get out of this. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, my last finished object is one you haven't seen before, and this is the Getting Warmer cowl by Espace Tricot. And this is in Woolfolk Luft, which is what the pattern was designed with. This actually has a story. So one of my best friends was going through a tough time, like physically, like with illness, and I taught her to knit as a way of meditation and something that she could do. And so I started this before we left Toronto. We've been in Spain now for 2 years. So, and I did the winter before so it's been a while. And when she came to Spain right before the whole COVID thing happened at Christmas, she brought it back to me, and she had got this far and then she didn't know how to change balls. So I said to her, you know what, I'll hold on to it, I'll finish it for you. She really didn't really get into knitting. So I said, I'll finish it for you and I'll send it back to you. A year and a half later, I was like, oh my gosh, I still have that thing. So I finished it off. We did it in 3 colors, and I'll put in a picture of my Getting Warmer cowl, also in Woolfolk Luft, which is honestly probably my most worn item that I've ever knit. And I sometimes hear when people talk about this pattern, or they talk about Woolfolk Luft, they talk about it being really pricey and not worth the price. I gotta say, I understand it's pricey, and I got it at a Boxing Day sale for 30% off, I think it was. So I think the cowl, I think it was $40 Canadian worth, maybe 50 worth of yarn, which again is, you know, depending on your point of view, is expensive for a cowl. That said, this holds its shape so beautifully. Like if you want a cowl that's really gonna hold that shape, you could do this out of Drops Air, but it's gonna, you know, it's gonna have a different drape. It's gonna have a different shape. You could do it out of regular Aran, or I think this is worsted wool. It's not gonna have the same shape. And this just really, really holds its shape. And being my most worn item, it also shows almost nowhere. Like it does not pill very much. And yeah, so that's just the case. I have not bought any more, but for this pattern specifically, I think Wool Folk Luft is worth it. So on to works in progress. If you saw my last sewing video, I showed you these bags that I made. So I made myself a couple of project bags because I don't have very many at all. I don't have any except for the ones that I've made. So I made myself a nice big one out of all these fabrics that I just really love, and a quilting block that I did last year. And I just put a zipper at the top, and I've got just a plain, it reads very blue, but it's actually gray, but gray blue lining. And in here, first of all, I have my knit shawl, which I showed you last time, but I have not taken that out again because there's other things that I want to finish first that I'll be able to wear earlier in the fall season. Here is my Trym vest by Blacker Yarns. And I have gotten very far on this. So when last we left our vest, I had finished the back and I was kind of here on the front. So I finished the front and I 3 needle bind off the shoulders, and I have done one, here we go, let's hold on this side. I've done the ribbing on one of the armholes. And I've tried it on and it does fit. So I'm gonna finish that off. This will be done before you see it again. I'll finish it off next week. It's perfect for this time of year. Really nice and comfy. I think the original definitely was not done in a superwash yarn, so we'll see how the drapiness works in this, but I do really like it and it's very soft and lovely. So that's gonna be, you know, coming through. Oh, you know what I forgot to tell you? One thing I forgot, and I'm gonna go back because I actually tried to record this last weekend and the footage didn't work out, and I forgot last time to tell you too, so I'm gonna go back even though we've passed this section. Blocking this sweater. So there's a wonderful vlogger out there. Her channel is called Mel Makes Stuff. I'll link it below. And she was talking about a sweater dress actually, that she had to block. And she put it in the dryer. No, she put it in the washer on just the spin and drain cycle. And I have a washer dryer combo here, which is not ideal, but it is what it is. And I decided to try that. And so this, if you can imagine, was just sopping and heavy. And I just, you know, I put it in the wool wash, I let it soak, I lifted it out and just sort of gently pressed it to get out as much as I could. And then I put it in and I just did the spin and drain. I didn't even do, it's a 15 minute cycle. I didn't even do the entire cycle because I was nervous. So I took it out, I think at 10, and it was like 80% dry. Like it was amazing. And it was not stretched out at all. I don't know if you're gonna do it with superwash yarn. I'm not gonna say if I can recommend that or not. This is not, so I wasn't worried about it stretching out. And I put it outside and just shaped it and patted it down. And I don't know if you've ever seen, when I was first knitting, I used to watch a lot of the Creative Bug knitting tutorials, and Wendy Bernard does those. And she was talking about blocking. Oh, I feel like my posture's off. Ugh. She was talking about blocking, and she said that she beats it with a wooden spoon. So when she sets it out, she takes a wooden spoon and she thwacks it to flatten and even out the stitches. So I thought that was really interesting. So I think I just slapped it with my hands. I just beat it a little bit. Anyway, so that might be a possible thing if you haven't done that before, and I will do it again, is to put it in the washer on a spin drain cycle only. And I also did it one at a time because I had a sock as well. Ooh, where's that sock I have to show you? Oh well, I had a sock as well, and I didn't want there to be any friction at all, so I only put in one at a time. So that worked really well. Okay, going on. Okay, moving on. In this bag, here's another bag. This is just a little improv block. I love doing little improv blocks. The teenier the pieces, the better. There's actually 2 pieces in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I just sort of framed them around. And then I put that into a bag. Now, initially when I made this bag, I felt like I had made it too tall and I didn't like the shape of it. But now I've changed my mind on that because I can fit so much in here. Like I can just pile a bunch of stuff in here. And often because my office where I am right now is on the 3rd floor, and where we often hang out as a family is on the 1st floor, I'm often bringing stuff up and down. So I really like this a lot. So again, same thing, same lining. In here, I have the socks. So if you remember, when last we spoke, I had this beautiful book. And if you didn't get to see inside, I did do a flip through. And in this beautiful book is a sock pattern called Yeta. I'm guessing Yeta. Someone will tell me if that's right or not. And these are the beautiful socks. So you also might remember, if you saw my last podcast, is that I've recently taken up flicking. So problem with Continental is, though, even though it's really fast, my gauge is really, really loose, and sometimes I have a hard time getting gauge, especially for socks, because socks are just the teeniest little stitches. And even when I went down to a 1.75 millimeter needle, I still wasn't getting the teeny tiny stitches that I wanted. So I started practicing flicking, which has become much more natural. And even though it's not as comfortable for me as Continental, it is definitely getting there. And so I decided to do these socks flicking so that I would really practice it. I started out on the 1.75 millimeter needles. I'm not quite sure why. I think just because that's what I had, and I didn't really occur to me that it would be different. And then I went up to the 2.0. So right now I'm at 2.0s, yes. And I'm making the second size. There are 3 sizes. And this is how far I've gotten. So here they are. Now, they are very dense, which I suppose is, what I'm trying to say is, these are a lot more dense than my other socks, but also none of my other socks have I been able to wear in shoes because they don't have the negative ease. So, and when you pull on them, when I put them on and try them on, I love that I'm finally getting that definition. And I have tried them on and they feel snug. They do not feel too tight. So these are a bit of an experiment. I'm okay with that. This yarn you will see multiple times today. This is the Regia Premium Merino Yak. I got some of this last year, so this is stash yarn. And I have 2 colors. I have this burgundy color and then I have a beige color. And so I'm using up the rest of the burgundy on these. I have this much left. So, I mean, even if I can't get a full cuff on both of them, I should be able to. I'm gonna now that I've separated, I'm gonna divide what I have left into 2 using my handy dandy yarn/kitchen scale. And I'm gonna, you know, divide it up and figure out how far I can go. So again, a bit of an experiment. I have ordered 2.25 millimeter needles because I think that's actually the only, ironically, I think that's the only size of sock needle that I don't have in, I have some from Knit Pro, but I don't love the Knit Pro sock yarn. I don't love the cable. I really like this set, and I use it a lot. I also have a beautiful set of Chalgoos sent to me by the lovely Claire from Scotland. Hi Claire, thank you so much. I use them all the time. And so I do use those more often, but the Knit Pro ones, especially if you're like, if you're just starting out in knitting, or if you just want to try out a set of interchangeables, those Knit Pro ones, they might be called something different in Canada, I can't remember. But those ones are really good. They look like this. Yeah, so these are going well. I use these again when I was knitting things in Continental so that I have something else in the flicking to also prevent repetitive injuries, because like I said, when I knit, I tend to just never stop. So those are living in here. And I do want to make one more bag because I feel like I could use one more bag to fit my whips in. Okay. Now I have one more whip, which is also a new cast on. So I have I have delved into the land of test knitting. I have test knit one other thing, and that is the You Better Work socks by Max the Knitter. And that was a fine experience. It was very low key. It was just knit the socks, tell them you knit the socks, everything okay, check. It was very, very low key. I think I finished one for the test and then I finished the other one later, and I absolutely wear those. Those are great. But now, someone was talking about test knitting and I thought, oh, maybe I'll just kind of see what's going on. And then I literally happened to I want to find the pattern so I have it handy. You know what, I'll put in a picture instead. I literally was scrolling on Instagram and happened to see that Isabell Kraemer was testing 3 new patterns. And there was a sweater pattern, this sweater pattern, that I saw and I was like, oh, that's pretty. And what I didn't realize is, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Isabell Kraemer puts her testing slots like on her Ravelry. She puts it on her forum feed for like a day and then it's closed, because I'm sure she has so many people who want to test for her. So by the time I checked it, and this was the same day, the first 2 were already closed. There was a hat and a scarf, I think. And the other one was the sweater, which is actually the one that I wanted. And it was still open. So I sent off a message. I was like, oh, who knows, whatever. It's a very quick turnaround. It's due by the end of September. So super quick. But I got accepted and I was like, oh, fun. This is awesome. In the meantime, before I heard back, I had also seen another test call on Instagram for something called the Clove Sweater. And I'll show that to you next. And I had already been accepted to that. But that one is not due until the end of October, and it's much more simple, very straightforward. I'm not at all concerned about finishing that by the end of October. So right now I'm focusing on this one, although I am going to cast on the second one today. So I have this printed out, even though my printer isn't working very well. I have it printed out and I've made a good dent. Okay, so when I was trying to decide what to make this out of, I was looking online trying to find something that would work. I almost got the Ulysse yarn from Rerum Natura, but I couldn't find the color I wanted, and I was really worried about shipping, because for some reason, since we've moved to this new apartment, shipping, if it's not by courier, there are lots of couriers here in Spain, so it's more often by courier, but if it's coming by like mail, it's a little dicey. And so I was worried about not getting it quickly enough. So I realized that in my stash I had, dun, da, 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 this is actually a new one. This is again, Regia Premium Merino Yak. It smells lovely, very sheepy. And I had about half a ball left from when I was using this last year. And so I thought, well, let's swatch it and see if it might work. And I'm a bit of a stingy swatcher, as you will see coming up, but I did swatch, it did seem to work. And so I thought, well, let's give it a shot and let's start it. And so I did start it, and then I had to order more, so that will come into the story a little later. But here's how far I am. I should have steamed this before I showed it to you guys. Maybe holding it this way might be easier, actually. Even though it's upside down, you'll get the idea. Okay, so there's this very cool lace pattern that I love, which is why I wanted to do the sweater to begin with. So we're doing this center panel going all the way down. I'm about to join for the sleeves in about 5 more centimeters, and then you pick up for the sleeves, and it's like a drop shoulder construction. So yeah, this has been interesting. I mean, I would say a lot about it so far I've already learned. Like, I've already learned some new techniques and construction things, and practicing short rows, some of which have gone better than others. I don't generally do much lace. That has definitely slowed me down. I've had to a couple times, you know, drop down and fix things, which has also been a new experience. So overall, I'm gonna give you again, even though this is upside down, I'm gonna give you another look at this. Even though overall it is slower, it's really, really interesting. Now I did the gauge. So I felt like the swatch was at gauge. And then I started this half a needle size smaller, because I am knitting this continental. I did do a half needle size smaller, and then I checked it again about, I don't know, maybe 10 centimeters ago, and it seemed too small. So I've gone down another needle size. So now I'm knitting it on 3.0s, right? Yeah, these are 3.0s. Luckily I had them. So I'm gonna keep going with that and we shall see. I did, like I said, need to order more yarn because I only had like half a ball, but I wanted to get started because I felt like it was gonna be a big challenge. So I've got two more of these. These are $12.95 a piece. And which leads me into acquisitions. I ordered them from Las Tijeras Mágicas, which means the magic scissors. Although I noticed they have it in German and in French on the side. Les ciseaux magiques and, oh, can I do this? Die Zauberscheren. Die Zauberscheren. I only took one semester of German in high school, so I wouldn't be surprised if I butchered that. Anyway, it came. So here's the great thing about ordering from within Spain. Honestly, even ordering within close by Europe, like France or Portugal, this came in 24 hours. If I had just got a few things, it would have been €4. And because I ordered more than 50 euros worth, it was free. And it came super quick. It came in this adorable little box. And they sent this really cute little container that I can put stitch markers in, which is great. And this is actually not even as full as it was. Came like this. Here's a little preview of what's coming next. So there were actually 2 of these in here. So yeah, this Regia Merino Yak is great. I haven't knitted as a sweater yet, so that's a bit of an unknown, but we shall see. So like I said, I was then moving on to the Clove Sweater, and I'll put in a picture of that. And that's a DK weight sweater, and I was like, what do I want to do with this? Like, what do I want to, because it's a simple sweater, I kind of want to do some interesting yarn, but I also did not want to spend too much because yarn is expensive. And I didn't want to go overboard. Now, where's my swatch? There it is. Okay. So I saw, when I was looking for the Regia, I saw this also Schachenmeier. This is the Mix and Knit Merino Extra Fine 120. So this is 100%, I have another ball band somewhere, but this is 100% virgin wool. I assume merino because it says merino on it, but it says 100% virgin wool. And I got it in this really cool, it's not black and white, it's like, it's pretty black. I would say it's like black and beige, light beige, maybe undyed, I don't know. They're all the same, oh here it is, there's the ball band there. They're all the same dye lot, so that's good. High quality merino, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we shall see. I did do a swatch, or what I like to call a swatchlet. A swatchlet. And my swatchlet looks like this. I swatched 2 different things. So it calls for a 4mm needle. I swatched 3.5 millimeters at, I swatched 3.5 millimeters continental. So I went down a needle size continental, and then I did it on the recommended 4 millimeters with the flicking. And so this one up here is the flicking, and I think I like it better. So I'm gonna go with the flicking, which is great because that'll give me, again, more practice, and it's mostly knitting. So I wouldn't wanna do the Isabell Kraemer one in flicking because I'm just not as comfortable yet. So it'd be like the discomfort of a new designer test knit lace with the discomfort of a new way of knitting. I thought, let's just keep that little bit more simple. So I'm really looking forward to doing this. I have so much of this. I hope that it all works out. We shall see. Okay, that's all my works in progress at the moment. And then you've seen a little bit of my acquisitions. I do have a few more little things. Let me show you. So acquisitions. I got a set of inexpensive double pointeds. They go from 1.5 millimeter down to up to, I think, 7 or 8 millimeter. No, not that much. That's an exaggeration. Maybe, let me look at these. Probably six or seven, not so bad. Just because for socks, sometimes I need to finish something off, or it's nice to have a set of double pointed. So I just grabbed these because they were handy. And then I also got a set of these stitch markers. What do you call light bulb pins, whatever you call them. These are really coming in handy. So I was watching, I can't remember who it was, but I was watching someone who said that when they have to knit like a certain number of repeats, they take one of the pins and then they hang however many repeats on there. So they take this pin and like say it's 10 repeats, they put 10 pins on there and then they pin it to the garment, and then every time they finish a repeat, they just take one off, and they know that once they've taken them all off, they're done and they can move on to the next section. And I thought that was brilliant because I tend to like write stuff down, but if it's with the project, then I can never lose it. I can never misplace the piece of paper. It's, you know, I think the most efficient way to do it. And now I have all these cute little stitch markers, so that's fun. And then in here, I have one more. So you guys also asked about my stash. This is my entire stash right here, other than what I've shown you that I'm already knitting up. And I got this little box at a local place. So the only other thing I have is this. This is Regia. Gosh, all Regia. So funny. This is Regia Perfect. So let me find the ball band. So this is the Perfect yarn, and it looks like this. And honestly, I got this because I got this on Amazon. I think it's the first time I've ever bought yarn on Amazon because it was on sale for €7. And so I thought I'd pick it up to try it. I do go, you've now seen, like I did get, confession, I did get those stitch markers and the double pointings on Amazon as well. I do go out of my way to support local yarn shops, my local merceria, Spanish yarn shops, you know, local dyers. Like I do really do my best, but every once in a while you get something from Amazon. What can I tell you? Okay. And then here is my yarn stash. So it really, my husband likes to laugh at me at this, but I think it's quite modest. And also half of this in here is being used for something else. So this is the rest of the yarn that I need for my Nick shawl, the Holstgarn Super Soft. So that's already in a project. Some of this is my knit crate. So I've got 2 each of these, as well as some of this is all knit crate. This is all knit crate. A lot of it is like leftover knit crate that I haven't knit up yet. I have some leftover sock yarns. I have these. The only thing that I have that I can make something with that's truly stash, I would say, is this Knitting for Olive silk. I have 2 of these. Other than that, it's just mostly leftovers and things that I'm holding on to for other projects. This was a mini that I'm going to use with the sock yarn that I showed you last time for heels and toes. Mostly I buy yarn with a project in mind, or I buy it and then I immediately want to cast it on. So I don't generally have a big stash. So this all fits in here, which is great. And toss that aside. And then, yeah, so that's it. That's my stash. Okay, so as of plans, I only have one because I have so much on the go right now and I've just picked up 2 new sweaters. But I'm going to do a cardigan for Lily, my youngest. And so of course, because now Audrey has a sweater, I have to do Lily a sweater. And Audrey actually has a couple sweaters just because of how things have worked out. So Lily wants a cardigan and I've decided to go for the Harvest cardigan by Tin Can Knits. And I'm ordering, she also doesn't want it in pure wool because she runs hot, whereas I run cold, so does Audrey. Lily runs hot, so does my husband. So she wants something that breathes and is not quite as hot. So I'm going to do a cotton merino blend. I think I'm going to do a drops yarn, also from Las Tijeras Mágicas, and we shall see from there if which one I get. But I'm hoping to get a red or a turquoise for her because those are her favorite colors, and I will be doing a cardigan for Lilybell. Okay, and then other than that, it's all dream knitting and things that I'm thinking of. So maybe next time around, I will show you some of my dream knitting. And pretty soon, I'm gonna get out all of my fall sweaters and I'm gonna do a review of all my sweaters, show you what I've made, show you how everything is held up, and maybe give you some ideas of what you will make this winter. Okay guys, that is all for me finally. I don't even know how long this video is, but thanks for sticking around. If you're a knitter, let me know below if you are here because you follow me from sewing or if you've discovered me as a knitter. I'm really curious to hear if anyone from the knitting world who is not also a sewer has discovered my podcast. And if you wouldn't mind sharing it with another knitter, I would so much appreciate that. That would be great. All right guys, I hope that wherever you are, the sun is shining and you are sewing or knitting, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Perfect timing.